Hey guys, today we're talking about passing the baton, a transitional legacy. On a track meet, when you have a relay team, they have a lot of fast individual runners, but those individual runners really don't matter if they can't pass the baton well. So many times you've probably seen these races where teams were running well, and the last leg they went to pass the baton and they fumbled it and ended up losing. We want you to win, and we want to win in this life that God has given us. And so, to do that, we really need to pass the baton well. The Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of a sinner is stored up for the righteous. So you have a person from the top down who is giving towards his kids all that he is and has in relation to that. In Ephesians 6, 1 through 3, it says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may be well with you and that you may live long on this earth." You see, this passing the baton, transitional legacy, involves two people, two entities. There's a passing down of an inheritance, and then there is a holding up of an honoring your father and your mother. Two major passages that talk a little bit about this is Matthew chapter 15, and we find two things in Matthew 15. The Pharisees were trying to condemn Jesus on tradition, and Jesus says, you're breaking tradition by talking to people about taking what they have vowed to help their parents and instead give those provisions elsewhere. And so we find two things from that. One is that honoring your parents includes vows and provisions. The second thing is that it's very easy to misplace help. So what God has given us in our responsibilities and our vows is meant to lift up and to truly help our parents as they age. But it's so easy to get distracted and say, well, the help that I would have given you, I'm going and it's going over here. No, we are called to uplift and provide for and take care of our parents. Well, why is that important? Well, in 1 Timothy chapter 5, it talks about the need for children to do this with their parents, because in doing that, our third point is that in providing for parents, we are practicing piety before God. See, in us providing and helping and doing what we can for our parents, our service and our help and our love is actually not just being exhibited to them, but it's actually a religious work, a very good, righteous work that we are doing before God. And it's a learned practice. So it's one of those things that we're not doing it just because we're obligated to. We're doing it because it's an act of worship before God. And then the fourth thing that we see from 1 Timothy is that a person who doesn't provide for his parents is worse than an unbeliever. That is an amazing, strong statement. A person who does not provide for his own is worse than an unbeliever. We are called in the faith to take care of and provide and care for our parents. And if we don't do that, it's worse than a pagan, or worse than a person who doesn't have faith. And the last thing that it says in 1 Timothy 5 is that parents being provided for are to be a certain kind of parent. Now, we're going to put that on the back shelf just a little bit. And actually what we're going to do is we want to walk through some life stages. And what does this look like in different life stages? Because we want to build a legacy that lasts. We want to have a team, a family unit that is going to win the race. And there are several different generations that involve that in order to actually win the race. And we have to transition well from one generation, one family, one life stage to the next. So just a couple of things in the earliest of life stages. Let's call this life stage 0 to 10 or 0 to 12. As a parent, your primary responsibility during this life stage is to discipline and love. Your main deal is to discipline your kids in love. Your kids have to learn obedience. They have to learn that they're submitting to someone who is in authority over them. If they don't learn submission to your authority, they will never learn the great love and value that one has in submitting themselves before the authority of God. And so it is your first, foremost, primary responsibility. Proverbs 19:18 says, "Discipline your son while there is hope, and do not desire his death." Meaning that if I don't discipline him, I am literally desiring him to die, because he is going to perish if he doesn't receive this discipline. Proper discipline in love, biblical discipline in love, is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It saves your kids from death, and it will help grow them to be the type of adult that desires to honor and care for their parents as they should. And then the second thing in relation to this life stage is all of that has to be dependent upon God. There's a passage that you may know well, Psalms 127 says, "Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Unless the Lord guards the city, the watchman keeps awake in vain. It is vain for you to rise up early and retire late, to eat bread of painful labors, for he gives to his beloved even in his sleep." Now, we've used that in the context of business. We've used that in the context of work. We've used that in the context of life. But we haven't read the rest of the chapter. The context of this actually is in the house building, the family building context. Because he goes on to say here, "Behold, children are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. How blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be ashamed when they speak with their enemies at the gate." This is how you build a firm foundation, how you build a family legacy that is able to last. You depend upon God as you seek to discipline your kids, to grow them up and to be the kind of people that live and love God well. Now, some of you may say, "Well, my kids are gone, and I sought to do this, but my kids, they went astray. They went AWOL." And my encouragement to you is that God has not left you without hope. God says to the church and these people in these types of circumstances who sought to raise their kids well, but their kids have left the faith, take care of the orphan, take care of the widow. Why? Because it is the character and nature of God to do that. So we are always in the midst of encouragement, always in the midst of hope. Live well as you seek to love God in raising up these kids, as we seek to raise them up to be kids who honor their parents. Thank you so much for being with us this week. Click on the link if you'd like to listen to the full sermon.